Michael Vandergrift, MCV Realty Group.
Just to help our team grow and help our clients so much better, in this,
Cool. Awesome. Hey, what's up, guys? So my name is Kevin Lynch, and I'm here with my good friend Michael. And the reason that we're actually getting together with this interview is to learn a little bit more about how his experience has been since he's joined Distinguished Agent, and how this has helped him with his career. Does everything sound good for you so far, Michael?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, my pleasure. So, before we ask any questions or learn a little bit more about your process, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do and where you're located, so that way people can learn a little bit more about you.
I'm Michael Vandergrift. I live in Huntertown, Indiana, which is just north of Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Cool.
I started real estate in June of 2019. And to learn, I checked out YouTube videos and I saw Brian Casella. And it was really neat because I used to knock doors for Comcast. So I could
Cool.
tell that this guy knocked doors. You can tell when you've knocked doors before, you can tell when somebody's done it, when they haven't done it. And I was like, man, this guy's the real deal. And I started watching him and I really liked, his style and everything. And so I joined shortly thereafter after I started.
And you said that was 2019?
Correct. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, cool. And when you got, I guess I'd say, started as an agent, was that at the beginning of the year, or when did you start in 2019?
It was June of 2019.
June. Okay, cool. So summertime, we're about halfway into the year. And it's interesting to me that you say, you're like, hey, you can tell when someone has door knocked, right? Because I think I know what you're talking about. It's almost like if you've ever seen what's that movie, like True Grit, with like Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that people who go through those trials and tribulations, right? Where you go through, man, I'm nervous, I have to talk at the door. I'm like approaching people at their house, things like that. It almost builds a certain level of confidence over time, because you get so used to being uncomfortable, right? And you're just like, oh man, like if I can do this after doing it enough times, and it gives you that level of comfortability, it's almost like I can almost talk to anybody, right?
Oh my God. That's what Brian is, the master of communication. I mean, it's just people were amazed in my office. I started into real estate. I'm getting deals right off the bat. And it was all because of, it used to be Modern Success. Now it's Distinguished Agent.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian
Rebrand.
Casella. Yeah. Because he teaches you how to talk. And it's just, at the end of the day, that's all we do is talk to people.
Of course. And I'm sure you would agree that at the end of the day, that it sounds like you understand that communication is like literally the benchmark, or like serves as like kind of like the bedrock of the foundation of building this business, because it's all through communication, like you mentioned. And if you're not really able to explain, or I guess I would say things to your customers, your prospects, friends, family, everybody that you're talking to, if you can't explain it to them in a way that's easily digestible for their mind, it's almost like you lose them and they don't even want to talk to you anymore, right?
Pretty much everything that comes out of my mouth anymore is scripts from BC that I've learned. That's where you got to meet them where they're at. You have
Yeah,
to find out.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I would say, or I guess my question to you is, what do you think like was your biggest takeaway, or when was like your aha moment? Like when you took something that you learned from the program and you applied it and you were like, oh my God, this is magic. Like it works. You know what I mean?
Man, I'm still getting those. What are you talking about? Every week
Right.
in our coaching call, he brings them. He just brought them in his. He did a webinar today, and he brought more, and it made me just see. I mean, he really just makes everything simple. It's just so you can digest it. I mean, anybody in any business could. I've told everybody about Distinguished Agent when it was Modern Success. Because I'm like, if you're in any business, communication is key. You've got to be able to communicate, and he's a master of that. He teaches you how to ask the right questions. And I know people like complain about the scripts, and it's like, no, you got to know the scripts, because how do you know what question to ask next? And I've been a slacker. I started out June 2019 on my own, just started knocking doors, and got a sale like my third day. And, I got a listing my third day out knocking. And
That's
people are like,
amazing.
how'd you get a listing on your third day? I'm like, man, when I'm out talking to, I was doing the hot prospecting. That's the script I was
Yeah,
using.
the script. Cool.
And And it really doesn't matter what you say. Like BC says, when you get to his level, it doesn't matter what you say. He could say anything. He's like, I could knock in the middle of the night and I'd still be fine, just because he knows how to just get out and connect with people and talk to people.
Exactly.
And, it's just, I ended up, I think my first year I did, which we're at 220 median here. Okay. So we're not
Cool.
California. Yeah, I did
Still.
2.8 million my first year, did
Excellent.
4.1 my second, my third, I did 5.3, and I am not executing everything correctly. I am not doing everything he tells you to do. I'm being lazy and not, this is doing this kind of sales without doing. If I would have done what he was telling me to do, I would have tripled that easily. If I would have followed everything and I'm starting to get into that now. So, I mean, I'm still, yeah.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I find, like, myself included, I've been with the program for 2 years now. And even for me, I had a background in real estate. I know we had connected prior to this. I was a realtor in Ohio. So right next door to you in terms of working out of the Midwest. And I was fortunate enough within my business, I was following Brian through his free stuff on social media. I was fortunate enough to pick up some stuff from him through there. And that kind of helped me really get my career started. And for me, I had the opportunity then to move here to San Diego. So I did get the opportunity to work under Brian and Loida directly, which for people who are in the program or people who know Loida, she's basically Brian, but female, you know what I mean? Like they work in tandem to each other. It's like, how can you not want to learn from something like that? So in based on like everything that you're telling me, I know it takes a little bit of time to kind of go through everything. It's not like you're going to learn all this in one day and just be a master, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
And
You gotta watch, close the deal is the greatest 30 hours. My new agent, I don't think he did it like I told him to, but I told him, you've got to watch Close the Deal, and you got to watch it 3 times. You got to watch it just because your mind's blown. And then the third time you take the notes from it. I mean, that's the greatest 30 hours in real estate by any person around. Mike Ferry, I don't care, Tom Ferry, whoever, that 30-hour Close the Deal is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so glad that you were able to get some information from that, and I'm glad to hear as well that you're also going through it multiple times, because I think that's part of the key to education, especially when you're learning more in like a video format, right? And you're taking your notes. It does take a little bit of while for the mind to maybe kind of implement and start to see the strategies. But then when you go through the second time, it's almost like you have an even bigger breakthrough, because you're learning what you've kind of already applied, or maybe they said something that didn't make sense. But now that you're an application of your business and you go back and see it again, you're like, oh, now I know what they're talking about. I went through that exact scenario, right? It's almost like there's a blueprint and they're like, hey, we've walked this path. We've been here. Don't worry about it. We'll get you through it. And that's kind of the level that we wanted to build within the group. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just got to execute.
Yeah, exactly. It just involves a little bit of taking action. And we all know that real estate is simple, but not necessarily easy. So with this program, would you say that it made the process, I mean, you already know it's simple, but would you say it's a lot easier now that you put in the work?
Yeah, nothing about real estate is easy. But yes, he teaches you how to do it, how to problem solve.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And is there anything else like in the group? Because obviously, we learned from Brian, he does the live lectures, and he has the coaching that you can plug into like at your leisure. But how's been your experience with other members within the group as well? Because I know obviously it's not just Brian, like we have our tribe, right? And we all help each other. So can you say anything about that?
Oh, it's amazing. The Facebook group, somebody always responds, to answer and help you. Because that's the biggest thing as a realtor. And the hardest thing about our job is the new problems we could face.
Of course.
You could be doing this 20 years and you're going to run into new stuff. And, everybody kind of works together. You always get people giving you solutions.
Of course. And I'm glad that you said people, as in like, it's not just one, right? Like when you go in and ask a question, do you feel like you get multiple answers, or is it kind of just the same people that are answering? What's your experience been like?
Absolutely. Everybody tries to hit what they specialize in. You've got so many various backgrounds and different types of real estate. We've got so many different people in the group all over. We've got an IT guy. I know AK, he was my partner before in one of the things. Those contests he used to do that I did like 3 of those, and I did really well in each of them. And you really make a connection there too.
Of course, exactly. Because now you're connecting with a group of people who want the same thing that you want. And it's almost like not really like a competition, but it makes it fun, right? Like you're like, all right, well, I'm being very intentional within my day. Here's like a set task that I need to do. Let's see if I can hit this expectation or exceed it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And would you say for the time that you've been in the group, have you made any like personal friendships or anything so far? Like, do you feel like you have a stronger connection to people within the group, or how does that work for you?
100%. My role play partner that I picked up from somewhere back in 2019, we still role play once a week, every Wednesday morning at 7:30 a.m. Every Wednesday
Perfect.
morning
Oh, that's
for
awesome. You
four
guys are
years.
sharks.
We used to do Monday through Friday like you're supposed to, but
Yeah,
once you get to our level of role play, once a week's enough. Because
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, go continue. You're saying because
yeah, because we did once a week for about the first 2 years, and once you've done it that many times, it's just doing it Monday through Friday every morning 7:30 to 8. We were doing role play together, and now we've cut it back to just once a week, and we just bring our best objections we got, and we tear each other up. Like we are the biggest butthead customers ever to each other.
perfect. And in those situations, right, when you guys are really digging deep and you're drilling each other and you're trying to be like a very difficult seller or prospect, how do you think that's affected you like in the long term when you go and use it like in the real world when you're actually sitting at the closing table and asking a seller to sign with you or trying to get an appointment?
Oh, it makes it so much easier. I mean, it's like when you're in game time, it's nothing. It's tired. I just regurgitate information sometimes. I'm like, I got to make sure that I'm really truly listening, because that's BC2. What I love about him in the program too is it's always about the client. It's not
Of
about the
course.
money. He always says the money will come if you just follow the process, take care of your clients. The money comes.
Absolutely. And the thing that I love about that, I'm so glad you brought that up because it really is about making sure that you care about this person, right? Like we're as agents, like we're under that fiduciary duty, right? We always owe our clients the honesty, integrity, all that stuff. So when you're involved in that way, would you say like having a mentor that actually embodies that, embraces that has affected your business in the long term?
Oh, in the long term, wonderfully. I mean, that's how I'm going to build this business to do it the rest of my life, and why I support him so much because he's honest. He's got integrity. He always tells you to always put the client first, even if it
Absolutely.
hurts you.
Of course, because at the end of the day, we want to get the most money and everything. We want the transaction and everything to go well for the client, but in those situations, you're absolutely right. It's all about making sure that we're taking care of their needs. Obviously, we do want to get to the closing table, but at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that they're taken care of. And when your clients are taken care of and they absolutely feel that, do you feel like it's a lot easier to get like testimonials from them, or do they send you referral business? Like, what's been your experience with that so far?
I need to do better at that. That's one of the areas I kind of lack in. But they would, yes, absolutely,
Cool.
because the process is on point. If you follow and you do, he has everything there. You've got everything, lists, checklists. Like I'm at Keller Williams now, so they're trying to get me to go to Bold, and a bunch of the guys are like, you don't need to go to Bold. You're in distinguished agent. That's basic training for us. Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't need it. You've got everything here. I mean, all the tools are there. Just when you get into his library stuff, I mean, I've done his cold calling 1 and 2, dynamic persuasion. I've done all those trainings, and I still go through those once a year. I try to revisit them.
of course.
Yeah, because new information, like you said, it's like he's just so good at that community. Me and my role play partner both call him the master of communication. Yeah.
Cool. And obviously, this would go to like social media. So there may be some people that tune in that might not necessarily know what we're talking about. I'm sure they understand we're talking about real estate, but for the folks at home that maybe don't really know what role play is, would you mind just talking a little bit about that and what your experience is and how that works for you?
Yeah, role plays just like making calls to clients and prospective clients that you normally do on a normal basis when you're prospecting, or reaching out to leads. So what you do is you just go through a scenario where one of you plays the agent, one of you plays the buyer or seller.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And when you guys are drilling each other, could you give me maybe an example of like a difficult situation where you were like, all right, well, I was able to persevere with some of the stuff that you learned in the program?
I would say the biggest thing is calling people out. It's like when they say oh great, who you work with, when they say they have an agent, everybody says they have an agent, or
Of
they're
course.
not right now, or these interest rates.
Yeah.
Well,
Cousin
are
in the
you?
business.
Yeah, I got a friend.
Yeah.
Oh, great, you got a cousin in the business. Well, we can also pay him a referral. What's his name? I probably know him. I probably work with him. We cooperate together. It's not giving up at that point and finding if that truly is the objection or whether they're just trying to blow you off. And the latest one is this interest rates, which everybody's hearing.
Of course.
I'm not
That's a
gonna do
hot
anything.
topic.
Yeah. And the what he gave us the other Sunday night, I'm going to give it out free to the world. Well, what challenges are you facing to make that move right now? Because you're telling me right now, Kevin, you're telling me right now that you want to move to San Diego.
Right.
What challenges are you facing right now stopping you from moving to California? To kind of dial out what the true objection is.
Sure, absolutely. And in those situations, what would you say are some typical responses that you would expect that you're ready to like counter with objection handling?
Wow. That's a tough question. You're going to hear the interest rates. Okay, well, what if it goes higher? You always got to look at it. It's two ways, Kevin. I'm going to tell you. Interest rates, yeah, they are higher. How important is this move to you? And what if interest rates go higher? How does that hurt you?
Yeah, that's a good one because
Yeah.
you're painting that like, hey, if we've known in the past they've gone up, it's possible they could still go up, so you could lock it in better. And one of the things that I find interesting about that, it's always like, hey, well, even if you get your mortgage now, you can always refi, and it's possible to get a lower interest rate in the future. Or what if rates come down? Then you can refi and get an even better rate, right? So it's like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah. What do you have to lose? Your landlord's going to charge you that.
Exactly.
You don't think your landlord's, it's the cost of money. You don't want to get too far because I have an economics BA in economics, so I want to get into the economics factor, but
Cool.
interest rates are the cost of money. It's going to change.
Absolutely.
Back in the early 80s, the mortgage rates were what, 19%?
Yeah, isn't that crazy to think about? And when you have those conversations with people, it's almost like I find that when I worked as an agent, like with the like younger generation, even like Gen Zs, some of them are actually still looking to buy houses, which I think is awesome if you're in your 20s and you're already looking at property. But it's interesting when you have that conversation. You're like, yeah, like you said, back in the 80s and stuff, we're looking at 15, almost 20%, and that was standard, like common, no problem. And now it's like, hey, it's at 6, and people are like, well, that's a lot.
Yeah, they've got short memories.
Exactly. And that's okay, but that's part of our job, right? Is to come in and part of it is not really just to like, hey, I want to get as many contracts, whatever. It's part of the education. And I think that's what gives a lot of that value, right? Is you're able to educate your clients and really help them in that scenario, help them understand the reality of what the market is. Because I find oftentimes, especially when you're working with a younger crowd, they do kind of still rely on the advice and tips and tricks from their parents, which is totally fine. But if your parents bought houses in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, their real estate experience was completely different from the world that we live in now. And I'm sure you would agree with that, right?
Oh, 100%. That's the other thing that we were always kept up in our group. He keeps us up to date. Like back when COVID first started and the market went nuts and there were multiple offers on everything. He taught us to use DUs.
Exactly.
Half the lenders are like, how do you even know about a DU? It's like, yeah, submit the DU with your offer. And people are like, you're submitting them. And they're like, what is this? And I'm like, this shows the strength of my buyer, so it strengthens your offer. He teaches us tricks like that, you got to know the tricks. You got to know your market. That's having a successful agent is knowing those things, knowing what possession times are. Yeah. You get those older people like that. I've had that. What do you mean I don't get 30 days after? No, we're right now. The market's calling for at close. I know that's difficult, but 30 days is a lot. Could we do like 7 or 14? You got to know the market to make your offers competitive.
Of course. And I would say, obviously, going through the experience and everything like that will give you that education. But on the door knocking and cold calling side, do you feel like putting that time in and going through that, I guess I'd say that pressure and the trials and tribulation, do you feel like that contributes to your ability to assess and really analyze your market overall? Like, does that make you more of an expert?
Absolutely. 100%. The more people this is a contact sport. The more people you talk to, the more you're going to understand the market. Absolutely.
Of course. That's awesome. So how long have you been a distinguished agent now? Because I know you mentioned Modern Success, so it's got to be a little bit.
It's been since about 29. I think I joined in 2019. I think I did my first contest in July, right after I started. It's back when he was doing door knocking, cold calling. He was doing like 6-week contest things. And
Yeah. Cool.
yeah, so,
Awesome.
yeah, I've been with him a while, and I'm gonna stay with him for life. I mean, every week still years. I've been watching him for what is it now? 4 years that I've been in real estate. I've been watching him since
Yeah,
pretty much day. He still brings new information to the table every week on that Sunday night call.
of
And
course. And
he's
that's
always there to answer questions if you got it, If somebody
absolutely.
in
And
the group doesn't answer, he does.
I'm so glad you brought that up too, because you're absolutely right. It's like, hey, these live lectures are an hour, but we've both seen Brian go well over an hour to make sure that everyone's question is answered and that no stone is left unturned, right?
Every question.
Cool.
Yeah. And I've never seen him get stumped. I don't think
Right.
I've ever in 4 years. And he admits that when he was earlier, that he did have issues where he had to call people to find. But man, have you ever seen him stumped in a Sunday night call? On
Oh,
any
never.
objection?
Not once. And even if he has like a guest or if somebody else comes through, or even if the questions are, sometimes people will ask questions kind of in the middle of a lecture, and it's like he pauses to answer it, and it doesn't even skip a beat, goes right back to the train of thought after it's resolved, or sometimes that can open up a thread in itself, and it's like, hey, here's a whole new conversation where he's kind of assessing the mindset of what that realtor is going through at that time and can relate it to something that he did, how he was able to overcome it. And I feel like that helps a lot of the people that are either new or even seasoned within our group, right?
Absolutely. I feel like when I started, I was light years ahead of agents,
Yeah.
like just light years ahead.
So in that situation, do you feel like even now, and being 4 years in, does that do you feel like maybe a competitive advantage? Like, do you feel more confident and comfortable? Let's say you were going up for a listing against a couple other agents. How confident do you think you would be in taking that business from these other agents?
If I do it right, I'm going to get it.
Yeah,
You can't say no. If you follow steps and follow the process, they're going to say yes. It's very
absolutely.
rare if you did the process, you qualified them correctly. See, I'm a slacker sometimes, and I lose some. The only reason I lose them is BC even said that today again. If you're not qualifying them, and sometimes I just want to go talk to people in front of them. I just want to meet them. I don't care. I skip. I don't do the whole 20 qualification questions. I
Sure.
just do a couple maybe or none, and just go meet them. And that's the only ones I ever lose. And I didn't follow the process.
Sure. So even in that situation, despite knowing like the proof is in the pudding and the process is still there, even you by your admittance, sometimes when you're deviating from that, it seems like your business is not working as properly as it could. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah, I could be much more. Yeah, that's what I'm working on now. I
Cool.
actually decided like a month ago that hey, I'm going to step in. I'm going to apply I'm going to start doing what he says. He gives us homework every Sunday night.
Of course.
You know how many times I've done the homework over 4 years? Probably it's bad, barely a handful of times. That's how bad. What if I would have done that every time?
Yeah,
What if I would have done
absolutely.
that? Where would I be now?
Yeah, these are all good questions, but at the end of the day, obviously, you don't want to beat yourself up over it, and you know that you can implement more. We can always improve more, which is, I think that's a fundamental principle in life, right? Like, there's no limit to how smart you can become. There's no limit to how strong you can become. Like, it's really just your attitude and your ability to get out there, right?
Yes, yes.
Cool. So, based on this interview and everything, how likely would you be to recommend a newer agent or a seasoned agent that maybe is either at the transactional stage, or if you're an agent that's seasoned and they're at the point where I know a lot of agents when they get big, they say they're at the point where you're at now, or like 3 or 4 years in the business, you start to get to a point where you have so many listings and you have buyers that are calling on it, and it's like, hey, I don't have time to hit these leads. So how likely would you be to recommend someone that's in either of those positions to be a part of Distinguished Agent?
Every single one of them. I got no higher return on investment on anything in real estate than this program. Nothing.
Excellent, bar none, right?
Yes.
Cool, awesome. Well, that I would say that would pretty much conclude our interview. If you have any like closing statements or remarks or just anything that you want to say in general, feel free. This is your time to plug your real estate, and obviously you mentioned where your market is, but anything that you'd like to say or any like remarks that you want to leave before we part ways.
Yeah, no one will regret it if you get in this program. It's a pleasure meeting you. Everybody in the program's always been awesome. I fully support BC and everything he does, and I get mad at the haters. They hate, like, dude, don't hate on the guy. he's got 7 lines of income now. You know, yeah, it's and I'm Michael Vandergrift in Northeast Indiana. If you ever have somebody up here, I'd be glad to help them out for you. So other than
Perfect.
that, I love the program. I love everything you guys are doing. Keep doing it. You know, maybe
Excellent.
I'll
Awesome.
be a real someday.
Yeah, who knows, right? Well, I mean, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because I was with EXP when I was working with Brian and them, and then obviously Brian presented me this opportunity to work more on the coaching side, which I enjoy a lot more. And in this situation, though, it's so crazy because I was with EXP and I see Real, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so much like it's like almost the same model, but it's like it's improved. It's like they trimmed the fat, you know. And EXP was already a slim model to begin with, so it's pretty crazy to me. But yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, I would definitely reach out to Brian or even Alden with our team. He's also with Real. Though he works with me on Brian's side here on the coaching side, and I think those would be two people that would be great to speak to if you decide you want to go that route and join Real for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Cool, awesome. Well, that's it, dude. I really appreciate you taking some time to run this interview with me. And obviously, I'll see you on the lecture and in the group, and we'll continue to help each other out. And I love that our group also, we use it as like a referral network, right? So if you have buyers that are moving somewhere or vice versa, I see people in there and exchanging all the time. It seems like we help each other out before we go public, you know?
Absolutely, yes.
For sure. It's
Yeah,
close
thanks
knit.
for having me.
My pleasure. Cool. If you need anything else, dude, I'm always around and I'm happy that you're with us.
All right, thanks, buddy.
All right, for sure, dude.
All right,
Later.
bye.